Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service here in beautiful Hernando County. And looking out my office window, it is a beautiful, totally cloud-free day out there, nice and warm, nice, beautiful late winter morning. And today, I am all by myself. I'm the lonely guy here today with y'all, and there's nobody logged on viewing me yet. So my regular co-host Lily Browning is busy this morning. She's off at another county event, and I tried to get some guests to come in, but couldn't find anybody to come on this week. Of course, they're all free next week, but nobody was free this week. But that's okay because Alicia's here. So I'm here. Alicia's here. Teresa should be here. So if anybody needs, links to University of Florida fact sheets or backup information, she's here to put that in. Buddy is here. Maggie, also known as Chili Beanie, one of my favorite names there, is here. We got a bunch of people here. So everybody's rolling in here. Hopefully everybody has a lot of questions, or at least some questions, because I only have a few things to go over here. Good morning, everybody. God, look at this. See, we're just packing them in now. It must be because Lily's not here. I think a lot of times I'll get the most questions when Lily's not here for some reason. I don't know why. And one of my first comments, the first thing that I have written down here to cover is I think last week the topic of fungus gnats. No, it was at the Facebook Live class we had on homeowner greenhouses and problems with them. Well, whatever. The topic of fungus gnats came up. And Corey, you are correct. The BT granules that you can put down to kill mosquitoes also work on fungus gnats. That's probably because mosquitoes and fungus gnats are both flies. They're both in the insect order Diptera, so they're very closely related. So the granules you put down that you can use to control mosquitoes in standing water, puddles, people who live out in the country and have horses and cattle with water troughs, put it in the water there to keep the mosquitoes out. If you're growing plants in a greenhouse or indoors and you have a problem with fungus gnats, you can use the granules to control them also. Fungus gnats are basically teeny tiny little flies. People will call them a gnat or a fruit fly. They all, to the naked eye, look the same. If you look at them under a microscope, they all look different. But just a very, very tiny flying insect. And what they do is if you have wet soil, so if you have a greenhouse, if you have plants that you're starting for your vegetable garden in your garage, if you have house plants and you keep the soil too wet, you can get fungus gnats in them because they'll lay their eggs and their larvae will mature in the wet soil. Then the adults come flying out, and now you have these teeny tiny little flying insects. So one of the things that could be is a fungus gnat. Could be fruit flies, could be phorid flies, could be drain flies. So there's a bunch of things it could be, but fungus gnats are one of them. So Corey, I did want to mention that you're correct. You can use BT granules for that. Corey said they sent his chicks to Brooksville. That must be chickens that you ordered through the mail. I know a lot of people will get chickens or baby chicks that way. I can't have chickens. I'd probably give it a shot, or I'd try, but I can't have chickens. Let's see where it is here, because our husky Cashmere, we only have one husky now, but Cashmere likes chickens, but not in a friendly, helpful way. If we had chickens in the backyard, he would find a way to go out there and, how could I put this, bond with them and get up close and personal with them and eat them, basically. Huskies and chickens don't mix well. So Maggie asks about the BT. Will it attract and kill her butterflies and caterpillars? No. There is a different type of BT that's very, very good for controlling caterpillars. So if you're growing tomatoes and you have caterpillars on them, you're looking for something to spray on the tomatoes to kill the caterpillars because you don't want them eating your tomato plants. If you have milkweed and you're raising monarch butterfly caterpillars to turn into monarch butterfly butterflies, you obviously don't want to do anything to hurt the caterpillars. So the type of BT that controls caterpillars will kill the caterpillars that turn into pretty butterflies, but the other kind that controls mosquitoes doesn't. So there's 3 different types of BT. Each one is very, very specific. One kills caterpillars, one kills mosquitoes, and obviously we learned today fungus gnats also. There's another one that controls certain species of beetles. So you really want to match your issue and what you're trying to accomplish with the control, if that makes any sense or if that helps. Facebook user says that their brassicas are still growing, as are mine. So in my vegetable garden, I've picked just about all the broccoli because when broccoli grows, it gets pretty large and you get that one big head of broccoli on the top. If you take a pocket knife or clippers and cut that off, take it inside, cook it, eat it raw. Raw broccoli is great too. But if you leave the plant, you'll get more little tiny side shoots. Each little side shoot is pretty small, but if you go out there and pick a whole bunch of them, you can pretty quickly fill a bowl. So I picked pretty much all the main heads off my broccoli, but I'm still getting little side shoots. I planted bok choy, which is a green, an Asian green that you would use in stir fry and Asian recipes. I like bok choy very much, but I left it in the ground for too long. It bolted, sent up this big flower stalk, got the beautiful clusters of yellow flowers, and is now setting seed. So I saw it the other day. I'm like, oh, darn, I missed my opportunity. The bok choy, the plant, the leaves look pretty terrible now too. So I'm thinking, I'm going to leave the flowers and the developing little seed pods a little bit longer. I'm going to cut them, put them in a paper bag, let them dry out, and then I'll have free bok choy seeds for next year that will hopefully germinate. Because, if you go online or if you're looking through a catalog or if you go to a big box store, seeds ain't cheap. Well, nothing's cheap anymore. But vegetable garden seeds, the prices of them have gone up. Prices of fruit trees have gone way up. So being able to save your own seeds is a definite bonus. And I see that Teresa shared a link for fungus gnats. So if you want a better explanation of what fungus gnats are and what you could do to help control them, there's some information. And Corey says, yes, baby chickens. So it looks like Corey's going to have baby chickens. Hey, here at our office, we do we love to hear success stories about how we've benefited you and how our information has helped you to become more successful at whatever you're doing. And we also take donations also. So those donations last year, if you're wondering how on earth I ended up with calabaza seeds growing them, it was a lady, a regular viewer of ours who grew calabaza and they grew huge and she brought me one. So Corey, if you want to drop off some eggs at the office one day, they will get put to good use and they will be greatly appreciated. So I'm not afraid to include shameless plugs for myself or our office on here either. So Monique, good morning. And Lee, good morning to you also. And oh, we're sitting here bouncing around. Good morning, Lee. I did get that picture of your tomato, and let me go ahead and share that here. They changed my buttons a little bit. So let's look for share screen. And Let's try to get it. Here we go. About a week or so ago, Lee sent me a picture of a tomato, and this has been a really, really hectic week or so for both myself and Lily. We've just been doing presentations and classes together separately. Both of our days are full, so I'm a little bit behind on my emails at the moment. Sorry. But I figured I'd just go ahead and save this one for today. So Lee sent me this picture of a tomato. It's a ripe tomato, but it has patches on it and damage to it. What that probably is, and what happens to tomatoes, is when they're small, if they're fed on by either thrips or stink bugs or leaf-footed bugs or some kind of bugs like that, when the tomato's very small, these insects will poke into it and suck the juices out. And then when the tomato grows and gets bigger and closer to being ripe, where they poked it gets a bad spot. So honestly, this picture, and it's a little bit blurry, looks like thrips damage to me. Too late to do anything about it now, because the damage was done weeks ago when the tomato was first pollinated and very small. But you want to keep an eye out for thrips and try to keep them under control. And a good control for thrips that's approved for organic production and very safe to use is spinosad, Spinosad. And Teresa, if you want to look that up and go ahead and put a link to some University of Florida information on it, it is a fantastic control for thrips and caterpillars and a few other things. So Lee also says they just reaped all their broccoli and now they're waiting for the cabbage. I didn't plant cabbage this year. I didn't get a chance to get the seeds planted and in, but I do have broccoli, bok choy, Chinese cabbage, and a lot of radishes. Radishes are so easy to plant, but something you have to remember, if you go out in the fall and plant a big patch or a couple of really long rows of radishes all at the same time, they're going to grow and you're going to get beautiful radishes, but you're going to get them all at the same time. So either you need to find a recipe to use radishes in. You can pickle them. A number of different ways you can pickle them. You can even pickle them and can them if you want to. You can use them in Asian cuisine. I like to generally eat them fresh, but plan on, if you plant a bunch of radishes, you're going to get a bunch of radishes. So plan on what you're going to do with them. Hey, share them with your neighbors. Like I said, drop them by our office. We'll give them a try. And somebody on here who's coming up as Facebook user said they planted ginger and turmeric. Today they're doing seeds, and we're pushing it now. Seeds need to be planted. Right? Are we okay? Yes. Right now, well, yes and no. Right now, you need to be planting a lot of different things to get transplants that are going to need to go in the ground in just a few weeks. Gosh, today is February 9th. As far as I'm concerned, I try to get things in the ground by March 1st at the latest. A couple days before that is fine. The problem is 2 weeks from now, we could have a freeze. We could have a big surprise cold front come through, and 1 or 2 nights get really, really super cold, and it's going to damage all that warm season stuff that we put in the ground. So it's the time of year where it really has to bring out the gambler in you. Are you willing to kind of roll the dice and gamble a little bit, put things in early, get an early start, think, if it gets really cold at night, do I have sheets or blankets? Do I have a way to maybe cover? So this gets into kind of a dicey time of year. I'm more than happy to tell you what I do, but it doesn't always work out the way I want it to, kind of like life in general. So I'll let you know what I'm putting in, when I'm putting it in. For anybody who lives south of Hernando County, you're safer this time of year. If you live further north, like Buddy up in the Panhandle, he's still getting cold weather up there. We haven't gotten freezing or really close to freezing for a couple weeks now. I think this weekend here in Hernando County, should be getting down to maybe 40s. So a lot of the warm season transplants, the tomatoes, the peppers, the green bean seeds that you might want to be getting in the ground, 40 isn't going to kill them. Makes them a little unhappy overnight, but by the next day when the sun comes out, it warms up. It's just that weather when we start to get near freezing, and it depends on just how cold your yard gets. So like I said, really soon is when we are all going to be kind of rolling the dice and going out there gambling like I'm betting that it's not going to freeze again. And either I'm going to be right or I'm going to be wrong. And we'll all find out together, I guess. Somebody says that they have dodder all over their arugula, and how can I deal with it? Teresa, if you can look up dodder, dodder's a really unusual weed. It's one of the very few plants that's a true parasitic plant. So it grows, it is a plant, but it gets a lot of its nutrients from its host. So dodder, I have dodder in, I have a hedge of hollies out in front of my house. And I have a type of dodder that lives in it. Dodder will sprout up and grow on other plants and actually extract nutrients from those plants. Um, Only thing you do is physically pull it up. There's nothing you can spray that's going to kill dodder without killing the arugula. So, and dodder is a plant, but not a true plant. It falls into a weird in-between group. So I don't even know how well weed killers, traditional weed killers, are even going to work on dodder. But dodder is very easy to pull up. I know I have to do it every summer, along with 6 other kinds of vines and things that come up in my hedge out front, and I get all cut up with the sharp leaves of the hollies out there too. Dodder is pretty easy to physically pull up, and that's going to be the safest way to get rid of it. Cindy, good morning. How are you? Yes, you know that you can sit here and be watching me live on our Facebook page. And let me go ahead and I think that. So if you want to watch me live on our Facebook page, you can. If you go to Facebook, we are under our short name as Hernando EXT. So if you have to search for us in a little Facebook search box, Hernando EXT, you're going to find us. We also have a private Facebook gardeners group, and I should be live on there also if everything is working correctly today. And I am also on YouTube live. So you can watch me live on 3 different places. So if you're having problems connecting with one, you have 2 other options that you can check out to try to catch us live. So we're going back to Corey's chickens. He's obviously raising them primarily for eggs. Oh, okay, and that was Bassem asking about dodder. And Teresa put up a link to University of Florida publication. So hopefully, Bassem, you are where you can see what Teresa is posting. Teresa is probably watching us through our office Facebook page, the Hernando EXT. And she also put up management of dodder. So University of Florida has a lot of information on dodder. It's one of those things that we don't see very often. It's not a very common question or phone call or weed in most people's gardens or yards. And Buddy up there in the panhandle says he's the gambler and the scrambler. So, yeah, you know, I like to gamble with my garden also. I like to kind of mix it up and try new things. I'm actually planted and trying some large tomatoes, and they're really hard to grow here in the spring because they take a long time to grow. And our springtime tomato season is fairly short here. So I started the seeds back around Thanksgiving, extra early, and I have some decent sized transplants. I have Better Boy and a couple of other varieties I had seeds for that get the large heirloom beefsteak kind of tomatoes. So I need to go out there and fertilize the heck out of them this weekend and kick them a few times to get them growing faster. And hopefully I'll have big enough transplants that when I put them in the ground, if I take really good care of them, they'll grow fast enough and give me tomatoes before tomato season ends, which happens between June 1st and June 15th. Because, and you're thinking like, well, what are you talking about? Up north, I grew tomatoes and I picked them in August. You're in Florida now. Tomato season pretty much ends in early to mid-June because we go into summer at that point when it's really hot and you can still grow things, but tomatoes are going to have a lot of problems. Trying to grow tomatoes here in the heat of summer, oh my gosh, you're going to be just buried with diseases and nematodes and insects and stink bugs and leaf-footed bugs and caterpillars. You're going to get overwhelmed and you're probably not going to get any more tomatoes after that point. So just I'm so sorry, but it's usually best to just take a deep breath and figure I'm going to get rid of these tomatoes. I'm going to try growing okra during summer or calabaza. That's a good choice. And we're going to try tomatoes again in the fall. They're just too hard to grow here during the heat of summer. Teresa, I guess you're putting the links in here where everybody can see them. You know, if you miss a link or if you need more information or you can't find it, the easiest way to find this information is just go to your friend Google on your computer and try looking at, let's say you want to find more information about Dodder. So if you look up or Google University of Florida, Dodder, that'll put you in the right place. Or if you don't want to type that much in, UF-Dodder, and that'll pull up University of Florida information and other extension offices information. So that's all good information. If you look at a link and you click on it and it's from University of Georgia, North Carolina State, another university, that's good information too. The only problem is Florida is a bit different from Georgia and even more different from North Carolina. So the information might be not completely accurate for here, but it's not going to be bad information. If you want bad information, there's a lot of different Facebook gardening groups out there, and you can go there and you can type in your question, and the answers and advice and identification you're going to get is all over the place. They're all terribly nice people, but not everybody on a Facebook group knows what they're talking about, and you will get a wide range of information. This time of year is the time of year in Central Florida when Jadera bugs come out. They're also called red shoulder bugs. Very small little bug, mostly black, but with a red spots on their shoulders. So if you look at their back where you figure a bug's shoulders would be, they have red shoulders. That's how it got that common name. And they are a seed-eating bug. And if you have a golden rain tree or China berry, they feed on the seeds of those trees. That's all they feed on. They don't bite you. They don't hurt your house. They don't eat anything in your garden. They just want to eat basically golden rain tree seeds. If you have a golden rain tree, you will have lots of Jadera bugs. If you get rid of the golden rain tree and rake up and clean up the debris as best you can, seeds, stuff like that, after a year or two, you won't have any more Jadera bugs. if you have a neighbor with a golden rain tree, you'll have a few Jadera bugs. I had a neighbor that had a golden rain tree and China berry, I think, both of them. And I would always get a few Jadera bugs in my yard. They got rid of them a few years ago, and I haven't seen a Jadera bug in my yard for a couple of years. So pretty simple, right? None of that's really complicated to kind of grasp or wrap your mind around. Go find that question or go look on Facebook gardening groups right now for that picture. Somebody posts a picture. I have a million of these bugs in my yard. What do I do? And people will suggest everything imaginable. Oh my God. Go out there and spray them. Spray them with a can of Raid. Don't do that. Go out there and spray them with garlic spray, Dawn dish liquid, this and that. A lot of people give the correct answer. They say it's a Jadera bug. Harmless, going to go away in a few weeks. The reason why you have them is that golden rain tree you probably need to cut down and get rid of. Bad invasive tree. Don't worry about it. Go golfing, go kayaking, find a worthwhile hobby. Don't obsess over these bugs that are only going to be here for a few weeks. So some people do give good advice. You just can't take every piece of advice and follow it and put it in the bag. But if you look online and you find University of Florida information or information from another land-grant university, that is accurate information. Even though North Carolina State writes primarily for North Carolina, which is similar in some ways to here in Central Florida, in other ways, not so much. So that's my lecture about what I see on Facebook for today. It's amazing sometimes. And Bill has a question here. He learned that the introducing pollinator-friendly plants in my garden were responsible for my oleanders suddenly getting caterpillars. Seems the wasp moth prefers to nectar on the Asteraceae family. If you have an oleander plant in your yard, and oleanders they're not native to Florida plants, but they are Florida friendly. They're not going to hurt anything. They're not invasive. They are poisonous. Don't eat oleanders. And if you go out there, you're trimming them, cleaning them up or whatever, wash your hands really well if you're a fingernail chewer, like some people are, because they are poisonous. Don't let children play with oleanders or the trimmings off them, and don't let your pets eat them either. But other than that, oleanders are a fine landscape plant, but they do attract a big fuzzy caterpillar to them that turns into, it's called a wasp moth or a polka dot wasp moth. And it's a moth that if you saw one, looks like a wasp. So let me go ahead and look that up. And I'm going to follow my own advice. I just Googled UF wasp moth. And where's the one that I want to look up? There's different species. Wasp moths are, oh, here we go. So let me go back into StreamYard and let me share my screen. And let me try to pick the correct tab on the first shot. There we go. I just Googled UF wasp moth, and one of the first choices I found was for the oleander caterpillar. So it is in the family Arctiidae, which Arctiidae are fuzzy caterpillars. One way to describe them. So it's a big family of caterpillars that turn into moths. They're all really fuzzy. And this is what the moth looks like. You look at it, oh no, that's a wasp. That thing looks scary, like it's going to sting me. Nope, it's a moth. And the caterpillars look like this. There you go. That's a very, very fuzzy orange caterpillar. And the common name for them is the oleander caterpillar. So, Bill, if you have an oleander, they will find it. The moths will find your oleander. They will lay eggs on it, and you will end up with oleander caterpillars on it. So it's probably not so much the other things that you plant, even though they do nectar on things in the Asteraceae family. They do nectar on flowers, like the picture here. They do that on a wide variety of flowers, and pretty much anybody I've ever known with an oleander at one time or another gets the caterpillars on there. Those caterpillars will eat a lot of leaves, and now your oleander is going to look like just a bunch of sticks. Unless the oleander is very small or very young or in some other way unhealthy or unthrifty, they never kill it. It's kind of like monarch butterfly caterpillars and milkweed. They eat all the leaves. Your plant looks like just a bunch of twigs, but they'll sprout new leaves. It will grow back and it'll be fine. So if you want to kind of sacrifice your oleander to the caterpillars and the moths, which are very attractive moth, they tend to fly around in groups in your yard for some reason. You could do that. If you're like, no, I love my oleander. I want to see the flowers on my oleander. I don't want to share it with the caterpillars. The safest things to use to control caterpillars on an oleander would be BT, the type of BT that controls caterpillars, or spinosad, because it controls caterpillars very well and very safely also. So it's your choice. We always, and a lot of times I start by asking somebody, okay, what's your goal here? What are you trying to accomplish? And that way I can give you kind of advice or point you in the right direction to be able to accomplish that. Because if you like the moths, I'm not going to tell you what to use to kill them, but if you don't want the moths, I'm not going to tell you to live with them. So that was a very good question, though. And Bill says the oleanders will have to go before I give up all our zinnias and butterflies. You can keep the oleanders and just let them be a host plant for the caterpillars and the moths that they eventually turn into. So either way. And Corey makes a good point here that he's had to leave some Facebook groups over too many people giving bad information and arguing with me when my information was correct. You know, I've been in the same spot before. And he's found good groups with mostly knowledgeable people. I will get into a discussion and I just post the correct information. After that, I generally don't post anything more. People can get nasty on social media. Hopefully that's not shocking news to anybody. But if you're not familiar with Facebook groups, social media, people can get nasty on there. Some groups are moderated better than others. Some groups are like literally unmoderated, bare knuckles social media. That doesn't bother me. I'm not easily offended. And I just put the correct information or generally a link to more scientific University of Florida proper information out there. People can take it, they can leave it, they can follow it, they can not follow it. We all have that right and we all have that choice. I just put the information out there, and if people get snarky or snippy or nasty, I just try to toughen up and not take it too personally. And Monique, you make an excellent point here that our audience is smarter than that. Yes, you are correct. And this is why we do this pretty much every week and why we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary at the very end of March is to hopefully make you guys, I don't know, smarter is the best word, more knowledgeable. We want to make people more knowledgeable, more aware of what's going on. We can give you the information. Whether or not you follow it is purely your choice. If you follow our information, ideally, life will work out better for you. Whatever your goal is, you'll have more butterflies. You'll have more tomatoes on your tomato plants. You'll have fewer mosquitoes in your neighborhood, whatever your goal or issue is. We're here to help. And yeah, we're trying to make you all smarter too. You guys are pretty smart too. I tell you what, we had what day was it? Tuesday, a group of middle school children come to our office and learn about, I talked to them about entomology or the study of insects with agriculture. And those were some smart kids. They asked some pretty smart questions. I don't really try to trip them up with questions. I try to ask questions that force them to think. And they were a bunch of pretty smart kids. So, and we have a good question here about peach trees. Yes, we are, believe it or not, guys, we're charging forward right into spring. And whether we get another cold front or freeze or not, that's not going to stop it. I have in my backyard, it's not in my yard, it's in the neighbor's yard, but it hangs over my yard, a wild cherry tree. I noticed just yesterday that it's starting to flower. So the cherry trees are going to flower. The cherry laurels, the more scrubbier ones, are going to start flowering. Your peaches are going to flower. Your blueberries, blackberries, everything is going to flower eventually. So if you have peach trees that are starting to flower, hopefully we won't get any more late season, really bad, devastating freezes. But you need to begin fertilizing everything really lightly. So your peaches, start fertilizing them. Just yesterday, I had a special speaker on, and we had a very, very good class on growing citrus. And Dr. Mangi Zekri was on there. He's a citrus expert from Southwest Florida. And he said, time to start with your citrus. If it's not raining, water it deeply every other day, start fertilizing lightly, and a couple times, starting really soon, use a foliar fertilizer on it also. I have all those different things at home, and this weekend I will start taking better care of my Myers lemon, which looks good, but I want it to look a lot better and be productive. So peaches, start fertilizing lightly now. If we're not getting any rain, don't go out there and water it a little bit every day. Go every 2 days or every 3 days and water it really deeply. And that's going to make your peaches send down roots deeper and wider. And that's the best thing that you do for your peaches. If we get a devastating freeze 2 weeks from now, you may lose the blooms and the little tiny peach fruits off of it. Nothing we can do about that. You can cover it. You could try to keep it warm. Of course, you could do that. But we all have to live with the weather, whatever we get served up. You know, we may not get any more cold weather for the rest of this winter. We may get a terrible cold spell. We may get 10 more cold spells. I have no idea. So yeah, somebody here, going back to oleander and the oleander caterpillar, they said they got rid of their oleander. A lot of people do that because it doesn't fit in with their goals. So for some people, if I tell you, you can keep that oleander and it's going to be a host plant for caterpillars. And the oleander is on a regular basis going to be bare sticks with no leaves. The leaves will grow back. It'll start to flower again. Don't worry. It almost never dies from caterpillars. It'll recover. And you're thinking, well, I don't want that. That's going to look awful. My goal is something else. You may want to consider getting rid of your oleanders. There are some plants that may be in your landscape that are just problematic, and I can't change that. It's just a fact of life. Sago palms are another good example. They get sago scale, and you have to use a nasty pesticides to get rid of them, or your scale or your sago will look worse and worse and eventually die. Fact of life. We can't do anything about it. So you need to sit there down and think, I love my sago. I'll do what I have to do to keep it healthy, or that's too much work. That sago's got to go. So Don't feel bad if you make that decision with an oleander. It all comes down to exactly what your goals are and what you want to do. So Cindy down in Pinellas County has a question here. She has Spanish needle, or the scientific name is Biden's alba, has a lot of other common names, beggar tick, but Spanish needle, it's the little plant. It gets small white flowers, lots and lots of them, and then makes the little seeds that are kind of long, like needle shaped or arrow shaped, that stick on your clothes and stick on your dog's fur too. So a lot of people don't like that. But Sydney says she has Spanish needle taking over the backyard. I cleared most of it last year, but left a section to grow after Lily said the bees liked it. Now I have lots of bees too. I need to cut it or mow it, but I don't want to disturb the bees. You can cut back on it and keep it under control. Spanish needle will take care of itself. It will grow back. As you go through with a lawnmower, weed eater, hedge clippers, by hand, whatever, you'll shoo the bees off. The bees will fly off of it, so you don't have, you'll disturb them. You may make them unhappy, but you're not going to injure them. So if you have the space and if it fits in with your overall plan, having a patch of something like Spanish needle is a great idea. Bees do love it. Teresa loves it. She has a lot growing in her yard. Pollinators like it. Beneficial insects like it. But it will start to spread. You're just going to have to kind of keep it under control and tell it, you can have this much space, but you can't take over my whole backyard. It'll try to take over the whole backyard eventually. And Cindy points out, you need to be thick-skinned for some of those Facebook groups. Yes, you do. We keep it friendly here on the Virtual Plant Clinic, and we try to run a family show here, but not all social media is run like that. And Teresa points out, yes, it is a good nectar and pollen plant that helps get bees, honeybees also, through the dearth. So the dearth is the time period in Florida where there's very little flowering, and bees are kind of like, where are we going to get nectar and pollen from? Nothing is flowering, so honeybees will have a tough time during the dearth. So that's why it's important to try to plant things that flower at different times of the year. If everything in your yard flowers and looks beautiful in the spring, going to look kind of boring the rest of the year. It's going to be just green bushes. If that's your goal, that's fine. Just be aware. It's going to look kind of boring. So you need to do a little research and try to put in things ideally that flower in the spring, summer, fall, winter, pop a color, a camellia in the corner. They look beautiful when they flower in the winter. Don't make your whole yard azaleas because they only flower and look pretty in the spring for a few weeks. After that, it's an okay hedge bush, but only pretty for a few weeks. So try to mix things up, put a variety of things on. And somebody here says that, Doc, my garden is looking good. We like to hear that, and we like to believe that we had a small part to play in your success. And Teresa's putting some links up here on the Facebook page for peaches and other edibles. University of Florida has so much information on so many different edibles. They have separate websites for peaches. So it's not just a fact sheet, it's an entire website. So let's look that up. I haven't been there for a while. Bum, 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 bum. I don't see. Now here we go. I found it. I found some really good information on peaches and stone fruit in general. So let me go ahead and share my screen once again here and show you what kind of information you could very easily find. So for anybody with peaches, University of Florida has an entire website here, and it's under, if you go to University of Florida, stone fruit varieties. So stone fruit is peaches, plums, and nectarines. And it has information on history of stone fruit growing here in Florida, different varieties, resources, who you can contact, has a list of stone fruit nurseries, so you can find out where to buy these recommended varieties. Has a list of all the different varieties by chill units, which is very, very helpful. I can tell you here in Hernando County, on average, we get 325 to 350 chill hours every winter. Some years more, other years less. So it varies quite a bit. So if I wanted a peach tree for my Spring Hill, Florida backyard, I'd look at UF 2000, UF Blaze, Florida Dawn, UF Sharp, Florida Crest, Gulf King. Is this just peaches? Yeah, those are just peach varieties. They have separate lists for nectarine. And I tell you what, guys, if you want to grow something that you're probably going to get some good fruit off of, try growing plums. I had a couple of University of Florida, it's either Gulf Blaze or Gulf Beauty plum trees. And one year we had an unusually cold, long winter, and those things flowered. I got like several bushes of plums out of my backyard. So tended to be a little bit easier to grow than peaches. Peaches tend to get a few more pests than plums. So a lot of good information there. Very, very easy to find. And Lee says, the information you share is very valuable to us. I know I'm more aware of things in the garden now. Thank you. Thank you, Lee. All you have to do is know where to look, and you have to know who the expert is. I freely admit I'm not the expert on everything. That's why, like for yesterday with the citrus class, I went out and found a citrus expert to come in and talk specifically about it. And Maggie Chilibini asked kind of a wide open question, something that we can all meditate on later on today. Sit outside and meditate on this in the beautiful weather. Are these chemicals good for plants that we're going to eat? Depends on what chemical you're talking about. So first of all, you don't ever want to use anything on an edible plant that isn't labeled for that edible plant. So you would never want to like use mothballs out in your yard at all, but you never want to use them around an edible plant, because mothballs, even though they are a pesticide, you use mothballs to put in bags with your wool suits in the closet. If you don't have wool suits, you probably don't have, or certain dresses and other clothes, you probably don't need mothballs. Nowhere on that mothball package does it say to ever use them outside in the environment. So don't ever do that. So you would never want to use mothballs or any other kind of insecticide or chemical spray on an edible plant that isn't labeled to be used on that edible plant. And then what you choose to use in your yard is your choice. If it's labeled to be used on, we were talking about peaches, let's say a peach tree, you can use it on a peach tree. Read the directions, know what you're using, know how to use it properly, mix it properly. The label tells you what to wear: gloves, mask, eye protection, hat, long pants, closed-toed shoes, everything else. Don't just mix up something that you had in the shed and head out there with your pump sprayer in shorts and flip-flops that might not be safe for what you're spraying. And then what you want to use, be comfortable with. If you need more information, just Google it, look it up online. Um, all the material safety data for all different pesticides is by law freely online. It's easy to find. If you lost the directions off a bottle of insecticide, you can find it online. It's all there. If you want to find out more about something, is this safe to use in my vegetable garden? Do I feel comfortable with it? Knowledge is power. Look it up, find more information about it. Contact your local extension office. Shoot me an email. If it's a really difficult question, send Lily an email. Go ahead and make her do a little bit of homework looking it up. Although what she'll do is just forward it to me. So yeah, just send it straight to me, and we can let you know the pluses and minuses, why it's safe, why maybe it's not safe, how to stay safe. Is it effective? Is it going to solve your problem? Why on earth are you going to spray something in your yard that doesn't solve your problem, or even worse, solves a problem that you don't have? It kills me when people say, or they'll ask online, who's a good company to come and spray my lawn? And like on a Facebook group, and I ask, what is your problem? And they say, I don't have a problem, but don't you have to have somebody spray your lawn in Florida? Well, no, not unless you have a problem. What is your problem? They say, I don't know. I don't even know what my problem could be, but I need somebody to spray something on my yard so I never have problems. That's not how you want to do it. You don't go to your doctor and ask for 10 medications to help protect you from things that you don't have yet. It doesn't work like that. If you have a problem, we need to figure out what it is. We need to properly identify it. We need to figure out what the proper solution is, and we'll give you all the solutions. And you can pick. I want something organic. I don't care about organic. I want something else. I want something that's going to be effective. And we can give you a choice of different things. And then, it's your choice how you want to proceed. So, Maggie, that is something that I think we should all meditate on and think a little bit deeper on that question. And here's another very good peach question. How wide does peach tree root go out or down? How tall will the tree get? What is a good fertilizer? Peach tree roots generally don't go down very deep. It doesn't get a massive tap root. And the roots over time go probably twice as wide as the canopy does. With peaches, how big they get, you determine. That's up to you. Peaches need to be pruned a certain way to keep them healthy. So a new peach tree looks kind of spindly and tall and skinny. If you go to the store or nursery today and buy peach tree, it's going to be kind of spindly thing. You need to cut that top main trunk at a certain place and encourage side branches to grow out so that a couple years down the road it's going to look like a big wine glass in your backyard. Want to keep the center kind of empty for good airflow. Let the sun and the fresh air come in the center. That way it helps decrease diseases in the middle. And you want those other branches to come out like a big wine glass, go up, and that's what you're going to get your flowers and fruit on. University of Florida has really good information on pruning peaches, so go ahead and look that up, and how to maintain them after year 1, year 2, year 3. Probably for fertilizer, 666 or 10-10-10 would work. What would probably be better is a citrus fertilizer, because citrus fertilizer you can also use for avocados, mangoes, and other fruit trees. It's a good formulation, and it has all the micronutrients that any fruit tree may or may not need, but you're applying them, so the fruit tree has it if it needs it. And like I said, you probably want to start fertilizing very lightly now. So how come every time when I'm here by myself and I don't have Lily or anybody else to keep me company, I figure, I hope somebody comes on. I hope somebody asks a question or two. Otherwise, it's going to be really short. But it seems like time flies, an hour goes by, in a flash of an eye, and we're coming up on 11 o'clock now. So let's try to knock out a couple more quick questions before we have to wrap it up for the week. So we got a question here about, my pineapple got hit by the cold. Do I need to cut the entire leaf off or just the damaged part of the leaf? Let your pineapple grow for another month or two, and at that point, it will tell you plainly what needs to be trimmed off. Because after another month or so, it's going to be getting new growth, and whatever is dead and needs to go is never going to get better. So be patient and wait for something like that. Bananas, same thing. Don't be in a big rush to clean them up. Let them go. Pretty soon, in a month or two, it's going to tell you, hey, I got some new growth. These leaves over here, the frozen died, they're still brown or black at that point, and you'll know that they have to go. It's going to be really, really obvious. And Cindy says she agrees that the Spanish needle is trying to take over. Yeah, it'll do that. Should she wait to mow it? No, you can mow it anytime. It grows. It's a weed that grows just about year round. It may die back in the winter. It may freeze in the winter. I've never really noticed how cold it can take it before it's damaged. But you should be fine now. And Teresa says that she mowed hers already. Maggie says that Dave's Garden kicks out anybody who doesn't know their hiney from their elbow. Yeah, a lot of Facebook groups are well moderated, and they try to keep everybody polite as possible. One of my many duties is I am, and I have been for a couple years, the chief moderator for anybody who's on social media or on Facebook. There's a Facebook page for the National Extension Master Gardeners. So the nationwide Extension Master Gardeners have a Facebook page, and I am the moderator in charge of it, and I help guide I think we have 7 contributors to the page, and we have 90,000 followers. That's a lot of people. And my contributors, God bless them, sometimes they'll put something controversial on there. And sometimes people say mean things. And sometimes they say things that you really shouldn't say in public, or, really, really inappropriate things. And I have to go in there and go through the comments and take appropriate action to keep everybody else safe and polite and unoffended. So, yeah, social media can be tough sometimes. Monique asks, when do vegetable seedlings get their first feeding? You can fertilize them very lightly with half-strength liquid fertilizer like Miracle-Gro works fine. Job's, something like that. So half-strength when the seedlings are up and starting with their second set of leaves. So the key is fertilize them very, very, very lightly, but fairly frequently, like every couple weeks. Give them a little bit more, a little bit more. You don't want to overdo the fertilizer, especially when the plants are very, very small, starting off. Teresa did find the University of Florida publication on pruning peach trees. So that is out there. They do have diagrams that explain, and it's kind of unusual. It's like, you want me to cut off what? And I want which branches to grow? It's different from like an oak tree or a crepe myrtle or something like that. Peaches, plums, and nectarines are unique. You need to prune them the way they need to be pruned, and they have a publication with pictures and diagrams to make it easy. And Cindy says, thank you, and Teresa too. You know, I couldn't make it through the day here at the office without Teresa. I definitely couldn't make it through a whole week without her helping out. So everybody who's watching, please remember that Teresa helps make all this possible. Got a question about pruning back flowers or waiting. And I guess that would be in the context of flower beds. Yeah, any kind of annual flowers that you have growing. Petunias, pansies, snapdragons, zinnias, marigolds. There's dozens of them, all very pretty, planted in mass. And if you get the colors right, if you're color coordinated, I'm really not, but it can make your yard look very, very good. And annuals give a really good pop of color or a big clump. I've seen beautiful displays with, like during the winter, petunias grow really well in the winter. They don't mind the cold. It can get to freezing. They don't care. They might look a little unhappy until it warms up the next day. Boom, they're going to flower again in a few days. If you mix like purple and white or two different colors, very, very pretty. With any kind of annuals, when they flower, once the flower after a day or so is dead and wilting, you can trim off that flower, and it encourages your plant to make more flowers. So the more you clean up your marigolds and pansies and petunias, the more flowers you're hopefully going to get off of them. That's called deadheading. So the dead flower, you want to deadhead it, cut the head off, take your snippers and just cut that dead flower off, and you're going to encourage more blossoms from the rest of them. And you're going to keep them flowering for as long as you can. Annuals don't grow for years here in Florida. That's why we call them annuals. They don't even last for one full year normally. Some annuals only go or look good for 4 months, maybe 4 months, because you can have 3 different annuals in a spot in a year. So going into fall, let's say it's October, put in pansies. They love the cool weather. They're going to look great over the winter. They're going to flower, add the pops of color. But by spring, when we start to getting up to March, pansies are going to go like, oh, it's getting really hot right now, and we're going to die on. So after that, you could put in marigolds. They're going to do well during the spring. When we get up into the heat of summer, July, June, July, August, maybe the marigolds are going to be kind of played out. There's a few annuals, Dusty Millers, Celosias, and a few other things that don't mind the really hot temperatures in the summer. Plant them for a few months, and then you're back to pansies, petunias, and everything. So, sorry, annuals are very pretty here. A lot of options. You can grow them year-round, but that none of them last for a long time. And Monique says she doesn't want to use Miracle-Gro. There are, if you go to a big box store, different liquid, which means it's some kind of powder that you mix with water and apply with a sprinkling or watering can. And there are organic options out there. If it says on the package it's organic, it is organic because that is regulated by law. And they're probably not going to lie and get in trouble. So Lee says, thank you, Teresa. And she's putting up links to University of Florida pruning ornamental plants. And that question was about perennials that need pruning. Soon, really, really soon. If you're really itching to go out there and start pruning stuff, you could do it. I'd wait another week or 2 at least. I personally go out there and start pruning stuff March 1st. They say that you should wait till March 15th, and that's safer. You can wait till March 31st. You're almost guaranteed not to get a freeze after that point. You can go out this weekend a little early, so We're getting close. Try to be patient. Put it off for another week. Tell you what, go to a fair or festival this weekend. And that way you won't have the time to prune stuff and you're going to force yourself to wait another week. That way it's a little bit safer. Monique asks about, am I experienced with or knowledgeable on Maverick geraniums? No, I've never honestly heard about them, but I don't work with geraniums an awful lot. They're supposed to do well with our heat and humidity. Maybe worth a try. They are always breeding different plants to tolerate heat better, humidity better, diseases better. So with all these different flowers, the companies are always breeding new varieties that are going to grow better, flower better, look prettier, different color flowers, everything. Because they want you to buy them, and that's how they make money. And that's why they come out with new varieties all the time. So no, if it says it takes heat and humidity better, it probably does. Probably worth trying, experimenting with, and you can come back in a few months and let us know how it worked out. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I'll show my email contact information in a moment. Although sometimes we do get unusual comments like, thanks, Doc, you were the GOAT. I think that's missing an R and an E or something there. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment and the thought behind it. And you know, we have had classes where we brought in goats and talked about going about raising goats. So, and Sydney points out that the Florida State Fair starts today. It is supposed to be extra crowded, extra crowded. So allow plenty of time and lots of patience finding a parking spot, walking to get in. But Florida State Fair and all the fairs and festivals going on, we're entering into a very pretty time of year. The weather is hopefully going to be sunny, warm, but not scorching hot. Great time to get out in the garden, get out to a fair and festival, go out for a long walk, get out there and get some fresh air and sunshine, and get some physical activity this weekend. We are going to be doing that. I think that we're going to be going to downtown Brooksville this weekend. They have a mermaid festival going on Saturday. You can find that online. So we highly recommend getting out there and getting a little bit of fun and exercise. And hey, if you have any lawn and garden questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. There's my email, wlester@ufl.edu. Send pictures, and I will do my very best to get back to you as quickly as I can. But sorry, guys, these emails just kind of roll in here sometimes. I'm sitting here looking at my email now, and it's just, there's days where it's just ding, 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 ding coming in. We'll get to all your questions. Just please be patient. We'll do it as quickly as we can. And if it's really interesting, I'll save the picture and the situation, and we'll go ahead and share it again next Thursday. So try to tune in every Thursday to share your problem and see my problems and everybody else's problems, and we'll all figure it out and learn together. So with that, ran a little bit over today, but not too bad. Hopefully, I will see everybody back here again next week. Let me double check. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, Lily will be here. And I have one or two people who said they're free tomorrow to pop on as a guest. So hopefully I'll have some company next week. Won't be quite so lonely. So hey guys, y'all have a great weekend and a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.